Hey guys, tonight we're going to step into the time machine and hit the brakes on the fast lane, bringing you back to a time when the only thing faster than your paycheck disappearing was the tumbleweed rolling through empty streets, the Great Depression. Yep, we're about to see what would happen if your modern family were suddenly thrown into a world of breadlines, dust bowls, and not a lot of internet. So before you settle in, give this video a like, but only if you're genuinely into the bizarre mashup of history and humor I've got for you tonight. Drop a comment telling me where you're listening from, and let's all marvel at how we're all wide awake in the 21st century, somehow. Now dim those lights, turn on a fan, get comfy, and maybe tuck your feet under the blanket because, who knows, there could be a rat lurking in your past, waiting to nibble your toes. Let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to lose your job and then have to buy a bag of flour with your last few pennies? Or how you'd feel if your father had to sit in a soup line just to keep the family from starving? What if you had to huddle around a radio for entertainment or listen to an unemployed relative who'd been out of work for 3 years giving advice on how to survive? How would you make your home feel cozy when the only heat source you have is a rusty, broken furnace? Well, congratulations. You've just woken up in 1932, and your family's about to have the hardest and most bizarre year of their lives. Let's see how your daily routine unfolds. Your day starts with the unmistakable sound of your bed creaking under the weight of uncertainty. It's that sound that has become so familiar over the past few months, the groan of wood strained by years of wear, just like you, worn out, but still hanging in there. You're not really sure how many hours you've slept. Who counts anymore when the whole world seems to be stuck in a sleepless, uneasy haze? The light creeping through the dusty window doesn't even offer any comfort. In fact, it just highlights the grime and grit of the world outside, a world that's so far removed from what it used to be that sometimes you can hardly remember what that world even looked like. The air in your room smells faintly of stale bread and burnt rubber, like a mix of last night's failed attempts to salvage some meal and the distant hum of a car that hasn't seen a good day since, well, before the Great Depression hit. The furnace in your living room, if you can even call it that, is basically a decoration at this point. It hasn't worked properly in ages, and the idea of getting it fixed feels as far-fetched as winning the lottery. Instead of heat, you have a blanket that's seen better days, possibly at someone else's house, and you pull it tighter as if it could actually do something about the cold creeping into your bones. You can't linger in bed too long. There's no snooze button to help you delay the inevitable. No peaceful, I'll just sleep for 5 more minutes that leads to another hour of dreams. No, today you've got work to do. And by work, you mean scraping the bottom of whatever barrel of resources you've got left in the house. You throw back the covers, and the floorboards creak under your weight. The house groans with you, like it's struggling to hold itself together, and you wonder how much longer this place can take it. The real challenge begins now, finding something to eat, not just food, but something that's not completely rotten. If you're lucky, maybe you've got some stale bread or a small potato left. You stand there for a moment, surveying the kitchen, the smell of yesterday's hand-me-down soup still lingering in the air, and you wonder if it's worth trying to warm it up. But then you realize there's not even enough left for a proper meal. You're just playing a game of scavenger hunt with your stomach, hoping to find something you can call breakfast. It's funny how what used to be a simple part of your morning routine has become a game of survival. You glance at the tin can of beans on the counter, a reminder of how you've started to rely on whatever you can get, even if it's not what you want. A warm coffee? Forget it. The thought of sipping something comforting seems almost absurd when you realize the last time you had a decent cup of coffee was back when the world made sense. And so, you make do. You find some bread, a slice of cheese if you're lucky, and maybe a cup of water that hasn't been tainted by the well. It's not ideal, but it's food, and that's the most you can hope for these days. There's no sugar to sweeten it, no butter to make it go down easier. You take a bite, and it's stale, but you chew anyway. After all, you're not really eating because you're hungry. You're eating because it's the only option you've got. There's no escape from this routine. It's just the way life is now. By the time you're done, you don't even feel full. You just feel, well, you feel like you're still surviving. That's the best you can ask for. You gather yourself together, trying to force some semblance of normalcy, but even that feels hollow. You glance at the clock. It's already later than you thought. But time doesn't have the same meaning it used to. Days blend into one another, and all that matters now is getting through this one, getting through today, getting through the Great Depression, one creaky floorboard and one scrap of food at a time. You take a deep breath, adjust your worn-out shoes, and head out the door, bracing yourself for whatever's coming next. The world outside is just as grim as the one inside. The streets are full of dust, empty pockets, and more people trying to get by. But for now, all you can do is keep going, just like everyone else. The morning wake-up call might not have been pretty, but it was real. And right now, that's all you've got. It's been months since you or anyone you know had a steady paycheck. Your dad's been out of work for a while, and every day he's wearing that same defeated look. The kind of look that only comes after weeks, or maybe even months, of trying and failing. There's no easy way to describe it, but you know it well. It's the one that says, "I'm not giving up, but I'm sure as hell running out of ways to keep going." He's got a good resume, maybe even a great one, but in the 1930s, that doesn't matter. The world has gone mad, and job offers are about as plentiful as rain in a desert. So you watch him shuffle through the papers in the morning, the ones that used to mean something. Not anymore. Now the classifieds are just pages of broken promises, reminding you that not only is your dad out of work, but so is nearly everyone else. And the only thing harder than finding a job is watching everyone else fall into the same hopeless routine. There's a quiet resignation in the air, as though every person you talk to is stuck in a waiting game, hoping that maybe tomorrow will be different. But it never is. Your neighbor used to work at the car factory, but now he spends his days pacing the porch, hoping for the phone to ring with that long-awaited call that never comes. Your best friend's mom used to work as a secretary, but now she spends her days at the soup kitchen, handing out whatever scraps she can find. At night, your friend and his parents huddle around their dinner table, just like you do, trying to stretch out whatever food they have left until the next handout. You start to wonder if the world's gone crazy, but then you remember it's the 1930s, and you're just trying to keep food on the table any way you can. There's no point in pretending that things will get better. They haven't gotten better for a long time, and at this point, it feels like the idea of better is just a distant memory. It's not that people have stopped trying. It's just that the deck is stacked against you. Every door that opens seems to be slammed shut again just as quickly as you reach for it. So you get up every morning, put on the same tired clothes, and pretend like today might be the day. You head out just like your dad does, even though you know there's nowhere to go. You stand in lines with the other men, all of you waiting for something that's not coming. A job, a chance, a miracle. It doesn't matter. You talk to the others, but there's no real conversation anymore, just a shared silence. The kind that comes from knowing that words can't change anything. You all stand there, hoping for something, anything, but no one's hiring, and that's the harsh truth that everyone is trying to avoid saying aloud. As the days drag on, you start to notice the little things. The way your dad shuffles through the house, moving slower, like the weight of the world is pressing down on him. The way he stops to stare at the radio, but never turns it on. Maybe he's listening for something in the static, but you don't think he really knows what he's waiting for anymore. He doesn't say much. What is there to say? When the bills are piling up and the cupboards are getting emptier, words don't really help. The only thing you hear in the house is the sound of silence. The silence that fills the spaces between the impossible tasks that have become the norm. He used to joke around, tease you when you'd come home from school, but now he's just there. It's like he's lost a part of himself, and he doesn't know how to get it back. Every now and then, you get a glimpse of the man he used to be, a memory of the guy who used to laugh at a bad joke or make plans for the future. But those glimpses are fleeting. The weight of unemployment, the constant pressure of uncertainty, has taken something from him. And for a moment, you wonder if it's taking something from you too. Your spirit feels a little more broken each day. How can it not? When the world is stuck in a loop of misery, and there's no way to break free, you can't help but feel like the walls are closing in. Yet somehow, you keep going. You take the next step and the next one, because that's all you can do. It's not about making progress anymore. It's about surviving. But deep down, you know that surviving isn't enough. You've got to believe that better days are coming, even though you're not sure how to keep that belief alive when everything around you is falling apart. Your dad still goes to the newspaper every day. You still hold your breath when you pass the job board in town, hoping that maybe today someone will see you, see your dad, and decide that you're worth taking a chance on. But for now, all you can do is wait, keep moving forward, keep hoping that tomorrow, maybe, just maybe, things will be different. Because in the world of the Great Depression, hope is all you have left. And sometimes, that's all it takes to get through the day. It's lunchtime, and you gather with your family around the table. But here's the thing. There's barely enough to go around. What's on the menu today? Maybe some moldy bread with a side of potato peelings, if you're lucky. The kind of meal that would have gotten you sent to the principal's office for complaining in the past. But now, it's the highlight of the day. Your stomach growls in protest, but you try to ignore it. The smell of the bread lingers in the air, stale, slightly sweet, but not in a way that's inviting. It's the smell of survival, not comfort. The bread looks like it might fall apart if you even think about picking it up, but you can't waste it. You don't know when the next meal will come. Your little brother's already eyeing your portion, and you're not sure if it's hunger or sheer desperation that makes him look so menacing. His eyes are locked on your plate, the way a dog might look at a bone. His hands are folded, and he's doing his best to seem patient, but you can feel the tension in the air. Maybe it's because he knows you're holding back. Maybe it's because deep down, you both know this meal isn't enough to fill you both. But neither of you wants to be the one to ask for more, because asking for more feels like admitting that you're not doing enough to make it work. And who wants to admit that? The silence at the table is suffocating. You look around at your mom, your dad, neither of them meeting anyone's eyes. They're probably wondering the same thing. How much longer can we keep doing this? But no one says it out loud. It's like there's an unspoken rule in this house. If you acknowledge the problem, it becomes real. So you all sit there, chewing slowly, trying to make it last as long as possible, even though every bite is like chewing on cardboard. Each one is a reminder that this is all you've got, and you're going to have to make do with what little you have. Your dad clears his throat, but it's more out of habit than anything else. He looks at the table, his hands resting on the worn surface, and you can tell he's not thinking about the meal. He's thinking about the bills, the rent, the fact that the neighbors are starting to talk about the state of your family. You can see it in his eyes, the exhaustion, the frustration, the guilt, but he doesn't say anything. What's there to say? Sorry, kids, this is all I could do today? What good would that do? He knows that words aren't enough anymore. And so, the silence stretches on. Your little brother shifts in his seat, and you can feel his gaze drilling into your plate again. It's almost like he's trying to communicate without speaking, but what can he say? He's just as hungry as you are, maybe more. You can see him trying to be patient, his hand twitching like he wants to reach for the bread, but knows it's not his turn. You want to tell him to relax, to stop staring, but you can't. You're just as desperate as he is. You can't blame him for wanting to eat. You're in the same sinking ship, paddling with whatever you can find. And then it happens. Your little brother grabs the last bit of bread off the plate just before you can stop him and shoves it in his mouth. The sound of his teeth sinking into the stale crust feels like it echoes in the room. It's the sound of someone taking what's left without asking. It's the sound of survival, but it's also the sound of tension breaking. For a second, it's too much. You're about to say something, to snap at him for taking the last bit of food, but then you see the way he's chewing so quickly, almost frantically, like he's afraid the food might disappear before he can swallow it. Your mom finally looks up, and you catch her eye. Her face is weary, but there's something else there too, something you can't quite put your finger on. Is it relief? No. It's something darker. Maybe it's the recognition that this isn't just a meal. It's a battlefield. And no matter how hard you try to keep things peaceful, the hunger always wins. She smiles weakly at your brother, but it's a sad, tight-lipped smile, one that says everything and nothing at once. She doesn't scold him. She doesn't tell him to give the bread back. She just sits there, her own hunger written all over her face, and wonders how much longer they can keep pretending that things are going to get better. The moment stretches out, and you all finish your meal in silence. There's nothing to say now. The bread's gone, the tension's gone, but the hunger's still there. It's in your stomach, and it's in the air, thick and suffocating. It doesn't leave. You can try to ignore it, try to pretend like everything's okay, but you know better. This is what surviving looks like. Quiet, tense, awkward. Sometimes, you don't even notice how miserable it is until you're looking back at it, years later, wondering how you made it through. And as you sit there trying not to look at your empty plate, you realize something important. Maybe the fight isn't about the food at all. Maybe it's about keeping your family together, even when the only thing you can feed each other is silence. With a nickel in your pocket, you head to the local market. That single nickel, the only piece of real money you've got, feels heavier than it should. It's like carrying a golden ticket, but for a train that's not even running. The market is quiet, more somber than usual, with only a handful of people scattered between the aisles. The shelves are sparse, and you can't help but notice how empty the place feels. You glance at the canned goods section. Most of the shelves are bare, except for a few lonely cans of beans and vegetables, some dented, some half open. The once proud display of fresh produce is long gone, replaced by dusty baskets that no longer hold anything worth eating. You pause for a moment, wondering what's worse, the sad selection of groceries or the knowing glances from the other shoppers. They all look just as desperate as you. Eyes flicker nervously, avoiding contact, yet somehow still aware of each other's presence, like silent competitors in a race no one can win. You all know that everyone here is bargaining with the same small supply, a little bit of money, a whole lot of hope, and maybe, just maybe, a faint prayer for better days. But no one's saying it out loud, and that silence feels heavier than the nickel in your pocket. You're here to bargain, but what do you even have to barter with? A few worn-out clothes and a grim sense of optimism. You wonder if the grocer would even take your half-used bag of flour or that tin of sardines you've been holding on to for a rainy day. A tin of sardines, what a luxury that used to be. Back when you could buy a whole meal for just a few coins, and the pantry was stocked with enough to get you through the week. But now, it's not about meals anymore. It's about surviving the next hour, the next day, the next week. A good meal is a distant memory, and now you can't help but eye the cans of beans with a sort of longing, because you know at least those will fill your stomach. You grab a can, its label faded and peeling. How long has it been sitting on that shelf? The thought of eating it makes you grimace, but you have no choice. You're not picky anymore. The hunger pangs in your stomach have dulled a little, but you know they'll come back with a vengeance the moment you step outside. You walk past the other aisles. There's nothing else here you can use, nothing you can really afford. The once vibrant rows of products have shrunk down to a skeleton of what they once were. The empty spaces mocking you like a cruel reminder of everything you've lost. You move toward the checkout, feeling the eyes of the other shoppers on your back. Maybe it's your nerves, but you swear they're all staring at the nickel in your hand, judging you for the fact that it's all you have left. The cashier looks up at you, her face drawn and tired, just like everyone else's. She doesn't say anything as she rings up your can of beans. You don't blame her for it. There's nothing anyone can say anymore. What would you say anyway? I hope you're doing better than I am. Or maybe, hope the world changes tomorrow. There's no point in pretending. You both know that tomorrow won't be any different from today. The nickel clinks against the counter as she hands you your change, another nickel and a few pennies. You pocket them without a word. As you leave the market, the cold wind slaps your face, and you can't help but feel the weight of the empty pocket on your other side. There's a part of you that wonders if you're the only one who feels the emptiness of it all. Maybe the others have learned to numb themselves to it, to live with the hunger and the uncertainty. Maybe they've figured out how to hold on to that one shred of hope, like you are, just barely hanging on to the possibility of a better tomorrow. But today feels like another step toward nothingness. A nickel, a can of beans, and a dream. That's all you've got to hold on to. And it's not enough. You pass by a few more market stalls, the vendors looking as weary as you are. You've seen this before. Just a few months ago, they were selling their goods with pride, their voices calling out to passers-by. Now it's quiet, like they've lost the will to shout for customers who aren't coming. You wonder how much longer they can hang on to. With your can of beans tucked under your arm, you head home. The streets are empty, save for a few people heading in the same direction. They've got their heads down, probably thinking the same thing you are. What will happen tomorrow? How long can this last? You don't have answers, and you doubt anyone else does either. But for now, you just keep walking, one foot in front of the other, trying not to think too much about the empty pocket that's just as full of unanswered questions as it is of emptiness. Knock, knock. Another door closed. You've been searching for a job for what feels like eternity, but every door you knock on seems to close just as quickly. The sound of that door closing is starting to become all too familiar, like the universe's way of telling you, not today. You've been out there for weeks, maybe even months, walking from one place to the next, hoping that one of these doors will open. But every time you think you've found a crack, a sliver of light, it's slammed shut in your face. You try to put on a brave face. You try to smile, to offer your most confident handshake. But inside, the weight of failure is getting heavier by the minute. The exhaustion starts to settle into your bones, and every "sorry we're not hiring" feels like it's taking another part of you. It's not just the rejection, it's the way it piles up, one no after another, until you feel like your whole life is one giant list of failures. How do you keep going when the world seems determined to tell you no? You can almost hear the doors slamming shut one by one, drowning out any shred of optimism you might have left. You tell yourself it's just part of the process, that rejection is normal. But it doesn't feel normal. It feels like a punishment, like the universe is playing a cruel game with your life. You check the paper again, scanning the classifieds. The ads for jobs are fewer now, and the ones that remain don't look much better. You wonder if anyone is really hiring, or if the world has just stopped asking. Each listing feels like a dead end. Even the most promising ones, part-time clerk positions or small odd jobs, end up with the same "we're not looking for anyone right now" response. So you keep moving. You put on your coat, grab your resume, and knock on the next door, the next opportunity that feels like it could be the one. But when it closes just as fast as the last, you can't help but wonder what's wrong with you. Is it your resume, your attitude, your appearance? It feels like no matter how many doors you knock on, you're just not good enough. And yet, there's something inside you that refuses to quit. It's a stubbornness, a kind of desperation that keeps you moving, even when your legs feel like they can't take another step. It's the small, nagging hope that one of these doors will open, that one of these knocks will finally be the one that leads to something more than rejection. Maybe, just maybe, this time will be different. But deep down, you're not sure. You've been at this for so long now, and the hope is starting to thin. It's as fragile as the paper your resume is printed on, tearing, fraying, threatening to dissolve into nothingness. You take a deep breath and try to move forward, but the weight of those closed doors is pressing down on you. You try to shake it off. Just one more door, you tell yourself. Just one more and it'll all be worth it. But you don't know how many more doors you can knock on before you run out of energy, out of patience, out of hope. It feels like the world is pushing you further into a corner, making it harder to breathe, harder to believe that anything is going to change. The silence of another empty office, another "will keep your resume on file," feels like a punch in the gut. You walk away, trying to keep your head up, but the shame creeps in. The doubt, the fear. It's the kind of fear that sticks to your skin like sweat, making every step heavier. You walk back to your small apartment, your thoughts turning inwards, replaying every rejection. Could you have done better? Could you have said something different? The questions gnaw at you as you walk down the street, but the answer is always the same. You don't know. When you get home, you sit down, staring at the walls that are beginning to feel too close, too small. You wonder how much longer you can keep doing this, how long you can keep knocking on doors that only open to more despair. The world outside seems to be moving on without you. It feels like everyone else has figured it out, found their way, and you're still here, standing still. But there's no time for self-pity. You've got to keep moving. You've got to get back up, get out there, and try again. Because the only thing you know for sure is that as long as you're still trying, there's a chance that something will change. Spoiler: you don't keep going until something changes. Not immediately, not in the way you expect. It's not some magical door that opens with a click, some fairy tale job offer that appears out of nowhere. It's just one more knock, one more step, and eventually something shifts. Maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's a conversation with someone who's been where you are, but whatever it is, you realize that the key to surviving this isn't about finding the right door. It's about keeping your hands on the doorknob, even when the world is telling you to stop turning it. When food is scarce, and money even scarcer, tensions run high. It doesn't take much to set off the smallest spark that could ignite an argument. You can feel it as soon as you step into the kitchen. The air is thick with frustration, like the kind of smoke that fills your lungs after a long, cold night without a fire. Your older sister is already at the table, eyes narrowed, lips twisted into a scowl, and she's making her feelings known. She's blaming your dad, of course. "It's your fault we're in this mess," she snaps, her voice shaking with anger. "You can't even get a job. You're supposed to be the one who keeps us together, but what good are you now?" Her words feel like daggers, each one cutting deeper than the last. Your dad just stares at her, his face stoic, like the weight of it all has crushed whatever was left of his fight. He doesn't argue, doesn't defend himself. What can he say? Every job he's applied for, every door he's knocked on, has slammed shut in his face, but that doesn't matter to her. She's tired. She's tired of being hungry, tired of hearing the empty promises about better days, tired of seeing your dad get more and more worn down by rejection. She doesn't know where else to direct her anger, so she goes after him. It's not fair, but when survival is on the line, sometimes fairness is a luxury no one can afford. Your mom, meanwhile, is giving you the cold shoulder. You can feel it even as you stand there in silence. It's not just because of what's happening with your sister and dad. It's because she's disappointed in you too. Why didn't you help out more? Why didn't you find a job? You're old enough to contribute to the family now, and you're doing nothing. Her words sting more than you want to admit, because she's right. You haven't done enough. You're all living in this unspoken limbo where no one knows what's coming next, but everyone knows they're running out of time. She's frustrated, and so are you, but in different ways. Your mom isn't just angry at you, she's angry at the world, at the system that's abandoned her family, and you're the closest target. The arguments start over small things, like who left the door open or who didn't finish the last of the rice, but they always escalate. It's like the smallest irritation becomes a proxy for everything else. A can of beans that's been opened but not finished. It's not just about the beans. It's a symbol of everything you don't have, everything that's been slipping through your fingers. It's not about who cleaned the kitchen or who took out the trash. It's about a deeper, unspoken fear that you can't shake, that this will never end, that your dad's unemployment, your family's struggle, is something you're stuck with forever. You want to scream, to shout that you're doing your best, that you're as powerless as everyone else. But you don't. There's no point. You know that. Instead, you stand there, caught in the crossfire, silently seething with your own frustrations, trying to keep from snapping. You try to ignore the growing pit in your stomach, the feeling that if you let this argument go on much longer, it'll swallow you whole. The door slams, the shouting continues, and you find yourself retreating to the quiet corner of the room, just like your dad does when the world gets too loud. But your dad, he's not just avoiding the fight, he's silently calculating. You can see it in the way he sits with his head down, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the table. What's he thinking about? Food, money, the can of beans in the cupboard that'll have to stretch until the next handout, until the next donation. The weight of responsibility pressing down on his chest, too heavy for words. Maybe he's thinking about how long he can keep this charade up, how many cans of beans he can hoard before the store runs out. Maybe he's imagining how much longer they'll last before someone finally breaks, before someone gives in to the pressure and collapses under the weight of it all. The argument reaches its peak, but your dad doesn't join in. He doesn't raise his voice or fight back. Instead, he just stands up, silent, and walks to the window. You watch as he stares out, as if searching for an answer out there, but you know there's nothing. There's no solution waiting for him outside. No quick fix, no miracle, just the same reality. The shelves are bare, the bills are piling up, and you're all still stuck in this never-ending loop of struggle. But then, something changes. The tension doesn't immediately dissolve, but it shifts. The fight has nowhere else to go, and the room grows quieter. Your mom exhales sharply, as if giving up on something she's been holding onto for too long. And your sister? She just stares at the floor, her anger dissipating, but not completely gone. There's no solution to the problem. No one's going to fix it. But maybe, just maybe, they'll figure out how to survive it. Together. For now. Going out in public isn't the same anymore. The world that used to be filled with the simple joys of a Sunday stroll to the park or a quick trip to the movies has all but vanished. The sounds of children playing, the laughter from families enjoying a day out, the smell of fresh popcorn wafting through the air, it's all gone. Now the only places you frequent are the soup kitchen, or if you're lucky, a friend's house, where you can share a few minutes of quiet misery. You've got a new routine, one where seeing a familiar face isn't about catching up with the latest news. It's about comparing the latest shortages, the rising bills, and the growing sense of desperation that's hanging over everyone like a cloud. You find yourself walking past the old movie theater, now closed, its lights dim and its marquee a faded memory. It's a reminder that the simple things, so like a night out, an escape from your own struggles, are now out of reach. The theater's long gone, replaced by the reality of empty streets and closed businesses. As you walk by, you notice the park in the distance. It's almost too quiet, too still. The children who used to play here are nowhere to be seen. The swings creak in the wind, moving without anyone to push them. It's almost as if the world itself is in mourning, and no one knows how to fix it. But you can't stay here forever, not when you know what waits for you just around the corner. So you head to the soup kitchen. It's not glamorous, but at least it's something. A little warmth, a little food, anything to fill the emptiness inside. When you arrive, you see the usual crowd gathered, a mix of the familiar and the strangers who've wandered in looking for the same thing you're after, survival. The line is long, and there's a certain grim acceptance in the air. No one's chatting, no one's laughing. The quiet hum of discomfort fills the room, punctuated only by the occasional cough or the shuffle of feet. This is the new social scene. There's no room for small talk, no space for the mundane niceties that used to come so easily. Everyone here is focused on one thing, getting a meal, and for the first time, it feels like that's the only thing that really matters anymore. But that's when you meet your neighbor. At first, you don't recognize them. Maybe it's because they're looking more worn than usual, or maybe it's the way they've been swallowed by the world around them. You've always known them as the one who would wave hello from the front porch, the one who'd share the occasional story of their day. But today, it's different. They've got that same lost look you've seen in everyone else, that look that says they're no longer sure of where they fit into the world. They see you, and they force a smile, but it's strained. "How's it going?" they ask, but you can hear the emptiness in their voice. You try to answer, but it feels like you're both reading from the same script. The words come out too easily, same as always, just getting by. And you can't help but feel a little embarrassed. It's not that you don't mean it, it's just that, in this place, getting by has become a code for barely surviving. But then your neighbor starts talking about their situation, and you listen, feeling a strange mix of sympathy and disbelief. They've lost even more than you, gone through the ringer in ways that seem too terrible to imagine. They talk about how they've been waiting for months to hear back about a job they applied for, how they had to sell off their belongings just to make rent, how their kids haven't had a decent meal in weeks. And suddenly, your own struggles, your unpaid bills, your empty pantry feel insignificant. Compared to them, your situation doesn't seem so bad after all. Your neighbor continues, barely pausing to take a breath, and you begin to understand just how deep the desperation runs. You'd been so focused on your own problems that you hadn't even considered how much worse it could get. They've got that habit of talking about how bad things are, but it's not just complaining. It's a plea for acknowledgement, a cry for help disguised as conversation. You listen in silence, nodding along, and somewhere between their words and the hum of the soup kitchen, you realize just how much you've been isolating yourself in your own misery. You walk away from the conversation with a new perspective. It doesn't make your problems go away, but it shifts something inside of you. You're not alone. Everyone is fighting their own battles, struggling to stay afloat in a world that's become more indifferent with each passing day. You may not have the answers, but for once, you're not the only one lost in the dark. You leave the soup kitchen and head back to your own corner of the world. It's not much, but it's yours. Your neighbor's struggles will stick with you, haunting you, But in a way, that's comforting. It reminds you that even in the worst of times, the human spirit is still strong enough to share, to connect, to look out for one another. You're all in this together, even if it's just over a bowl of soup. At night, when the world quiets down, you lie awake dreaming. It's the only time of day when your mind isn't overwhelmed by the crushing weight of your circumstances. The world outside your window is still, too still, and you're left alone with your thoughts. The questions start to swirl. Could you really pack up and head to California, where there's supposedly more work? Could you leave everything behind, hoping that the promises of sunny skies and job opportunities aren't just another cruel joke? You've heard the stories, the ones from the men who came back from the West Coast with tall tales of riches and opportunities. But you've also heard about the long lines, the overcrowded camps, the people who got there hoping for a future and ended up stuck just like everyone else. You wonder if it's worth the risk. The stories paint California as a land of promise, but the reality is probably a little more complicated than that. Everyone tells you the same thing. You've got to go west. But how? How do you leave your family behind, especially when they're relying on you just to get by? Could you really take off in search of something better, knowing that it could all be for nothing? The fear of the unknown eats away at you. But then again, the fear of staying here, trapped in this never-ending cycle, feels just as suffocating. So what's the alternative? Stick it out? Stay in this rut for as long as you can? Or take a chance on something you're not sure will even be there when you arrive? And then there's the train ride. The idea has been on your mind for days, maybe weeks now. You've heard about those who've hitched a ride on the rail cars, traveling across the country, becoming part of the legend of the hobos. The thought makes you nervous, but also oddly excited. There's something about the image of rolling across the American landscape on a train, the wind in your face, the track stretching out before you like a promise. Maybe it's the freedom of it, the escape from everything that's holding you back. Maybe it's the thrill of living on the edge, the idea that for once, you'll be in control of your own fate. No job interviews, no rejection, just you and the tracks, moving toward a future that's still uncertain, but at least feels like a choice. But you also know the reality of it, the dangers, the harsh conditions, the isolation. The hobo life isn't as romantic as it sounds when you're trying to survive off of whatever food you can scrounge and sleeping under the open sky with nothing but your coat to protect you from the elements. You'd be one of them, the nameless, faceless drifters who never stay in one place for too long. You'd have to learn how to survive in a world that has forgotten about you, where everyone else is too busy surviving their own misery to care about yours. And yet, something about that idea feels almost freeing. The road is open to you. The train can take you wherever you want to go. At least out there, you'd be on your own terms. But then, another thought crosses your mind. What if everyone else is doing better than you? What if California really does hold the answers, and everyone else has already figured it out? You start to imagine a world where people aren't lining up for scraps of food, where they're not stuck in this endless grind of rejection and disappointment. What if there are places where jobs are aplenty, where opportunities don't come with a side of desperation? You wonder if it's all just an illusion. Maybe the world really isn't as bad as it seems. Maybe there's some other land out there where things are normal, where people aren't just trying to survive the next meal. You wonder if everyone else is living in that world, the one where there's no soup kitchen, no cold stares, No long waits in line for nothing. It's a tempting thought, but you can't help but wonder, is the rest of the world really that different? Or are they just as stuck as you are, pretending they have it all together while secretly hoping for some kind of escape? Maybe you're not alone in your struggle. Maybe the whole country is holding its breath, waiting for something to change. You wonder if the whole world is just as miserable, or if you're the only one still hanging on, still trying to figure out where the next meal is coming from. But you know one thing for sure. There's got to be more than this. There's got to be something beyond the empty streets, the hollow buildings, the tired faces. Maybe California is the answer. Or maybe it's the train ride, the freedom to leave it all behind and take a chance on something unknown. Either way, it's a choice. And for once, it feels like a choice that could actually change something. For now, though, you stay up, listening to the quiet hum of the night, trying to decide which path you'll take. The unknown lies ahead, and maybe, just maybe, that's the only thing you can count on. The world outside is nothing but dust. Dust in the air, dust on your clothes, dust in your lungs. It feels like a never-ending storm, but no matter how much you wipe your face or brush off your sleeves, it's always there, clinging to your skin, clogging your nose, and coating everything you touch. The sun can barely break through the haze, its light muted by the thick cloud of dirt that has taken over the sky. It's not just the air that's heavy, it's the weight of the land itself, suffocating, choking on its own barrenness. You've heard it described as a black blizzard in the papers, but nothing prepares you for the reality of it. It's like being trapped in a dust-filled nightmare, the kind you can't wake up from. The earth itself seems to have turned against you, as though the land has had enough of humanity's demands, and now it's fighting back. You start to wonder if this is really America, or if somehow you've wandered into some post-apocalyptic wasteland. It doesn't feel like the country you've heard about in stories or seen in old photographs. This is something else entirely. There are no bustling streets, no crops growing in the fields, no signs of life. Everything is muted, reduced to a flat, colorless version of itself. It's like the world has gone silent, and the only sound is the constant whirling of dust and debris that fills the air. You can't tell if it's the middle of the day or the middle of the night. The sun, obscured by the dirt, casts an eerie, dull glow over everything, and shadows fall in strange, unnatural directions. The horizon is barely visible, swallowed by the haze. It feels like the edge of the world has collapsed into itself, and you're standing at the center of it all, trying to make sense of a landscape that's become unrecognizable. You try to take a deep breath, but all you inhale is dust, gritty and suffocating. It's like the world is collapsing on itself, and you're watching it happen, powerless to stop it. How did it get this bad? How did you end up in the middle of this chaos, with nothing more than grit and determination to keep you going? You wonder if this is the new reality, if the world as you knew it is truly gone, and what's left is just the raw, unrelenting force of nature, unbothered by human existence. Every day feels like a battle just to breathe, and every hour drags on endlessly. You can't tell if the dust storm is getting worse or if you're just losing track of time. What you do know is that it's harder to wake up in the morning, harder to find the will to push forward. You try to go outside and check the crops, but there's nothing left. They're gone, buried beneath layers of dirt. The once vibrant land that used to feed you and your family is now a barren wasteland. You're left with nothing but dried up soil and the constant hum of dust swirling through the air. Your body feels weighed down by the dust, your muscles aching as you struggle to even walk through the thick layers that have settled everywhere. You wonder how much longer you can take it. It feels like you're caught in a loop, living the same day over and over, each one harder than the last. You can't escape it. There's nowhere to go. The world outside might be a nightmare, but it's your nightmare now. You glance at your family, each one struggling in their own way, but none of you saying anything. What's there to say? You all know what's happening. You all know what's coming. There's no point in pretending anymore. The land has given up, and so have you. The dreams of a better life, the hope for a future filled with possibility, seem like a distant memory. You're just trying to survive, trying to make it through another day of dust, another day of struggle. But somehow you keep going. You keep pushing through, even when it feels like everything is against you. There's a stubbornness in you, a refusal to let the dust swallow you whole. You try to find hope in small things, a bit of rain that might come, a small patch of land that might sprout something green. But even that seems distant, like a faint memory of what could be. You try to hold on to whatever you can, but as the days drag on, it gets harder to remember what life was like before the dust, before the land became a wasteland, before your future turned into a constant fight for survival. Is this really America? Or is this some twisted version of it, where the land has rebelled and the people are left to pick up the pieces? You don't know. All you can do is keep moving, keep surviving, and hope that someday, somewhere, this nightmare will end. But for now, the dust is your world, and you are stuck in the middle of it, trying to figure out if there's any way out. Every night, the family gathers around the radio. It's not for entertainment, it's for updates. Updates on the economy, the unemployment rate, and how bad things are getting. You've stopped expecting good news. The air is thick with the smell of yesterday's dinner, but no one talks about that anymore. What matters now is what the voice on the other side of the radio will say next. The voice that comes through with a mechanical whine, warm and steady, but always carrying that underlying sense of dread. There's no soothing music or uplifting stories. No one talks about the good things anymore. Instead, you hear the same tired reports, the same dismal facts that have been your reality for what feels like forever. The radio hosts try to put a positive spin on it, but it's hard to ignore the underlying sense of impending doom. You've heard it in their voices too many times now, hopeful but cracking, like they're forcing the words out with a smile they don't really believe in. You've heard them tell you that things are improving. There's light at the end of the tunnel, but it always feels like a lie. The airwaves crackle with uncertainty, and you can practically feel the weight of their words pressing down on your chest. The stock market might be inching back up, but the truth is that for most people, it doesn't matter. Your dad hasn't had a steady job for months. Your mom is still trying to make the pennies stretch, hoping for a miracle, but no miracle is coming. The air is thick with the sense that the world is stuck, frozen in time, and it's only getting worse. You know the next piece of bad news is coming. It's only a matter of when. Your family sits there in silence, each one pretending to be hopeful, but you know it's just a matter of time before the next bit of bad news comes through the airwaves. The tension in the room is palpable, and you can feel the weight of it on your shoulders. You try to focus on the sound of the host's voice, but it's like your brain can't latch onto the words. They just slip away, leaving behind an empty feeling. You glance around the room. Your sister is sitting on the edge of the couch, her arms crossed tightly, staring at the floor. Your mom is wiping her hands on her apron, but you know she's not thinking about the dishes. She's thinking about the bills piling up. Your dad, silent as always, looks straight ahead, his hands clasped in his lap, his face a mask of resignation. No one speaks. No one has to. It's not that you don't want to hear what's coming next. You do. You want to know if the world is going to get better. You want to know if things are going to change. If you'll wake up tomorrow to a world where food is abundant, where work is available, and where the future doesn't seem so bleak. But you already know the answer. Every night, the radio gives you the same tired promises, and every night, you feel your hope slipping a little further away, like sand through your fingers. The host's voice grows louder, trying to keep your attention, to reassure you that everything will be fine. But his words are drowned out by the fear that's quietly rising in your chest. You can hear it in his voice too. There's a hint of panic, a crack in the facade of hope. You know that even the person speaking through the radio doesn't believe everything they're saying. They can't. No one can. You shift uncomfortably, trying to ignore the gnawing hunger in your stomach. It's the same hunger that's been there for days, weeks, maybe longer. You glance at the clock, and you realize how late it's gotten. But time doesn't feel real anymore. It's just one endless day stretching into another. The days blend together, indistinguishable from one another. And the nights? The nights are the worst. That's when the silence really hits you, the silence that fills the room after the radio cuts off. It's a silence that sits heavy, like a weight pressing down on your chest, suffocating the room. The future is as uncertain as the darkness outside. You don't know what will come next, but you know it won't be good. And so, you sit there, pretending to believe that the world will get better, just like everyone else. But deep down, you know the truth. The future isn't coming, not in the way they tell you, not in the way you wish for. You wonder briefly if things will ever go back to the way they were, or if this is just the new normal. Maybe the world has changed forever, and you're stuck in this never-ending cycle, waiting for something, anything, to change. But as the radio falls silent, you realize that change may never come, at least not the way you've been told it will. All you can do now is wait, watch the clock tick down, and hold on to whatever hope is left, however small it might be. Hold onto whatever you can, but as the days drag on, it gets harder to remember what life was like before the dust, before the land became a wasteland, before your future turned into a constant fight for survival. Is this really America? Or is this some twisted version of it, where the land has rebelled and the people are left to pick up the pieces? You don't know. All you can do is keep moving, keep surviving, and hope that someday, somewhere, this nightmare will end. But for now, the dust is your world, and you are stuck in the middle of it, trying to figure out if there's any way out. They told you that if you worked hard enough, you could achieve the American dream. The promise was always there, lingering in the background like a distant beacon. Work hard, and you'll be rewarded. That's all you had to do. Work hard, put in the hours, and someday, maybe not today, but someday, you'd have the life you always wanted. Maybe you'd own a house with a white picket fence, maybe a car that ran without sputtering and stalling, or perhaps you'd be able to send your kids to school without worrying about the bills. It was simple, they said. Just work, and the dream would come to you. But now, that dream is just a flickering hope in the dark. It used to shine brightly, but the flame is dying, slowly smothered by the winds of reality. Your friends have lost everything. The ones who had jobs, the ones who had a little bit of security, they're out of work now too. It doesn't matter if they were good at what they did, if they put in the hours, if they had the right skills. The world doesn't care about that anymore. Your neighbors are barely hanging on. Some of them have packed up and left, chasing after whatever promises still exist out there, hoping for a break, hoping for something better. Others are stuck, trying to scrape by, holding on to whatever scraps they can find. And yet, somehow, you're still holding out hope for a miracle. Every day, you tell yourself that tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow, you'll find that job. Tomorrow, you'll catch a break. Tomorrow, something will change. But deep down, you're starting to realize that the dream you've been chasing might have been a lie all along. The American dream, that idea that if you just worked hard enough, you'd be rewarded, doesn't seem so simple anymore. It feels like something out of reach, a story they told you to keep you going. But now it feels like a fairy tale. You wake up every day like clockwork, ready to face the same routine. You send out applications, you make the calls, you knock on doors, but the world doesn't seem to care. The dream feels like it's slipping further away, like the harder you try, the more elusive it becomes. Every rejection, every unanswered call feels like another thread unraveling, and suddenly you're questioning everything you've been told. What happened to the promise? What happened to the idea that if you just worked hard enough, you'd make it? It's hard to shake the feeling that you've been lied to. Harder still to shake the anger that comes with it. You look around at the people who still seem to have it together, the ones with jobs, the ones who aren't worried about when their next meal is coming from, and you can't help but feel bitter. What's their secret? Why do they get to live the dream while you're stuck fighting for scraps? You try not to dwell on it, but it's impossible not to. Every time you see someone else make it, you feel that knot tighten in your stomach. And yet, despite everything, you keep going. Maybe it's the small glimmer of hope that you're clinging to. Maybe it's the belief that one day you'll find your way. It's that flicker of possibility in the darkness that keeps you moving forward. But with every passing day, that hope feels more fragile, like a light that's barely holding on in the face of the storm. You wonder how much longer it can last. You wonder how much longer you can keep pretending that the dream is still alive. You try to tell yourself that you're not giving up. But even as you keep moving forward, you start to wonder if the dream is worth it anymore. If it's all been a lie, a distraction to keep you going, then what? What's left after the dream fades? What happens when the hope finally gives way to the crushing weight of reality? It's a thought you try not to entertain, but it's there, lurking in the back of your mind. The dream you've been chasing has always been a flicker in the dark, and you're starting to wonder if it's finally time to face the truth. Maybe the light was never meant for you at all. But still, you carry on, because what else is there? You hold on to the belief that someday things will turn around, that maybe, just maybe, there's still a chance to make it. And for now, that's enough to keep you moving, to keep you hoping. You keep chasing that dream, even if it feels like you're running through a fog. Because even if it's just a flicker in the dark, it's still a light. And for now, it's the only thing you have left to guide you. What's more important than food? Family. As you sit together in the dim light, splitting a few scraps of whatever you could scrounge up, you realize something. This is your family's bond, stronger than any job or paycheck could ever be. It's not the food on the table that matters most. It's the fact that you're all still here, still together, still fighting through this together, no matter how hard it gets. The house is quiet, except for the soft sound of silverware scraping against empty plates, and every bite feels like a victory. There's barely enough to go around, but somehow it's enough. You're together, and that's more than a lot of people can say. Your little brother, his stomach growling louder than the rest of the room, looks at the piece of bread on his plate like it's a treasure. It's hard not to laugh, even as your own stomach aches with hunger. But that's the thing about being this hungry. It strips away the pretenses. No one's pretending anymore. There's no room for niceties. You can't afford to care about what's on your plate as much as who's beside you. Your dad's quiet, eating slowly, but he's there, and that's something you're learning to appreciate more each day. Your mom, sitting beside him, seems a little more fragile than usual. The weight of everything, the constant struggle, the endless days of uncertainty has taken its toll on her. But she smiles weakly as she passes the last bit of bread to your older sister. There's no fight, no argument over who gets it. She gives it to her because, at this moment, it feels like the right thing to do. The shared glance between your mom and dad says everything. You might be starving, but you've got each other. And in the end, that's all that really matters. At least that's what you tell yourself. You don't have the luxury of worrying about anything else. You can't afford to be angry about the things you don't have. No one here is crying over what's missing anymore. You can't afford to waste time on bitterness. The only thing that counts is making sure everyone gets through this day. You've got patience now, the kind you never thought you'd have. It's the patience that comes from learning how to live with less. You've learned to wait for your turn, to make sure the youngest gets their share, to look out for each other, even when the only thing you have left is each other. The silence between bites feels comforting now. It's not awkward, not uncomfortable. It's the kind of silence that speaks volumes. A silent understanding between each of you that says, "We'll get through this together." You don't need words to say it. It's written in the way your dad passes you the last of his coffee, in the way your little brother glances up at you with wide eyes, waiting for approval before he takes his last bite. There's an unspoken trust between you all. It's all you've got. Outside, the world is still hard, still cold. You know that. But right now, in this moment, it doesn't matter. Because in this room, you've got warmth and you've got love. It's the kind of warmth that can't be measured in degrees or in food, but in the quiet assurance that no matter what happens, you'll be there for each other. That's the power of patience. It's learning how to survive on less than you thought you needed. It's knowing that the food might be scarce, but the love in this room is abundant. Your sister looks up from her plate and meets your eyes. There's no judgment in her gaze, just a quiet understanding. A small nod of approval, and you return the gesture. There's no need to say anything. You're in this together, and that's enough. For now, it's all that matters. The struggles of the world outside can wait, because in this moment, with nothing but scraps on the table, you've found the one thing no one can take from you, your family's bond, and you realize that despite everything, despite the hunger, the lack of jobs, the uncertainty of tomorrow, you have everything you need. You have each other. The rest is just noise, just distractions from what really counts. So you eat slowly, savoring the small bits of food and the warmth of being surrounded by the people you love. It may not be much, but in this world of uncertainty, it's more than enough. And for the first time in a long time, you let yourself believe it. Meals are barely meals anymore. What's on your plate today? Some potatoes? Maybe a little bit of bread, hard and dry from sitting out too long? Maybe a slice of meat if you're lucky, though it's more likely to be fatty, tough, and overcooked if there's any at all. The truth is, the food on your plate doesn't even resemble what it used to be. It's just a filler, a way to quiet the growling of your stomach, a reminder that you're still here, still going, even if it's by the thinnest thread. The problem is, there's no luxury in the Great Depression. There's no room for picky eaters. No one's complaining about how their food tastes or how it's prepared. You eat what you can afford, and sometimes what you can eat doesn't even taste like food. You glance at your plate, the last bit of bread staring back at you. It's stale, too dry to chew without a cup of water, and even then, it feels like it's sticking to the roof of your mouth, resisting every bite. The potatoes are the worst part. They're overcooked, soft but flavorless, like they've been boiled into submission by the sheer lack of ingredients in the house. No seasoning, no butter, just the plain dull taste of what little remains from a week's worth of rationing. Your stomach growls again, not from hunger, but from the frustration of having to eat the same thing every single day. You don't even remember the last time you ate something that tasted good, when a meal could be savored instead of endured, but there's no point in complaining. Complaining is a luxury, and there's no room for that anymore. You can't afford to waste energy on feeling sorry for yourself. The food might not be much, but it's something. It's a far cry from the fresh, vibrant meals you remember from before. There's no fruit, no fresh vegetables, no meats. The pantry that used to be full of options now looks like a skeleton, and you find yourself eyeing the last few scraps, wondering how much longer they'll last. There's no backup. There's no emergency stash of food hidden away, waiting for the day when things get better. What's left is barely enough to get through today. And tomorrow? Well, that's a problem for later. The worst part is the hunger. It's not just a physical emptiness. It's a gnawing reminder that you're surviving on the bare minimum. You're going through the motions of eating, but your body isn't satisfied. Your brain keeps telling you it's not enough, that you need more, that something has to change, but it doesn't. You're still here, still eating scraps, still waiting for something to give. You try to distract yourself. Maybe if you keep chewing, keep swallowing, the hunger will fade away. Maybe if you focus on anything else, it won't hurt so much. But it's always there, lurking in the background, making every meal feel like a reminder of just how much you've lost. Your mind drifts to the past, the meals that used to bring everyone together, family dinners that were full of laughter, rich with the smell of roasted meats and fresh bread. There was always enough. You remember the table groaning under the weight of a feast, the laughter of relatives telling stories, the satisfaction of a meal shared. Now those memories are like a dream, something you'll never reach again. It feels almost cruel to think about it, but you do. You think about how easy it was back then, how food was a given, not a luxury. You think about how much you took for granted. You shake the thought away. You can't afford to linger in that dream of what once was. You look at your plate again and take another bite, It's not much, it's never enough. But somehow, it has to be. You push the thought of real food out of your mind. You swallow the last bite of bread, hoping that the hunger will subside. It doesn't. It never does. But you tell yourself that at least you made it through today. That's what matters. Tomorrow, you'll do it again. You'll eat whatever scraps you have left. You'll keep surviving. You try to find solace in the fact that you're not alone. Everyone else around you is eating the same, just as hungry, just as frustrated. But even that doesn't make it easier. You start to wonder how long this can go on, how long you can keep surviving like this, day after day. The reality sets in. This isn't a temporary setback. This is your life now, and the food on your plate, it's all you've got. It's all anyone has. So you'll eat it, you'll chew slowly, make it last, and when it's gone, you'll wait for the next meal, hoping that it's just enough to get you through. Because in the end, it's not about the food. It's about surviving the day, holding on to whatever scrap of hope you can. And for now, that's enough. Your neighbors are always eyeing your food. Maybe it's because they know you've got a little more than they do, or maybe it's because they can see the desperation in your eyes. Either way, you can feel their gaze on your plate, watch their eyes flicker to the bread, the last bit of stew in the pot, the few scraps that are left. It's not that you want to hoard it all for yourself, but somehow in a world where food is scarce and survival feels like a competition, it becomes a matter of instinct. You try not to make it obvious, but you know they're watching, sizing up what's left, calculating if they can grab a little more before you notice. You try to shrug it off, but the tension is there, thick in the air. The competition for scraps has begun. Everyone's struggling. It's a simple fact. There's no room for pride anymore. The days of having enough to share are gone, and the idea of being the one who has more than anyone else feels almost absurd. But there's something about the way your neighbors stare at your plate, the way their hands twitch when they think you're not looking, that makes it clear. This is a race for the last crumbs, the last drop of soup, the last scrap of bread. You wonder if they see it the same way you do, this quiet, unspoken rivalry where everyone is scrambling to keep their place, to hold on to whatever meager portion they can scrape together. It's worse when you know there are others, just as desperate, fighting for whatever scraps you can get. When you're all in the same boat, fighting to stay afloat, the desperation feels even more palpable. It's not just hunger that gnaws at you. It's the constant awareness that there are others just like you, just as hungry, just as tired of scraping by. And yet, somehow, it's still hard not to feel the sting of competition when you see someone else's eyes land on your food. You try to tell yourself that there's enough to go around, that no one's going to starve if you share, but something inside you fights against it. There's a survival instinct that kicks in when food becomes the most valuable thing you have left. It's not about greed. It's about keeping your family fed, about holding on to whatever little security you've managed to scrape together. Every day you see them, the neighbors across the street, the ones whose clothes are just as worn as yours, whose children are just as thin. You nod when you pass them, but there's a tension between you, an awareness of the unspoken competition that's become your life. You can't help but notice when they stand by the back door, watching the breadline, eyes scanning the crowd for the last bit of food that might trickle in. You've seen them do it before. You've done it too, waiting for the scraps, the handouts, the relief that comes from just a little bit more. and you've seen how they eye you when you return from the market with a few extra cans, or when you manage to catch something from the food bank that they didn't. They're not so subtle about it, but it doesn't matter. You both know what it means. You wonder if it's the same for them, this unspoken rivalry. Do they feel it too? The silent calculation of who has what and who's falling short? Do they worry about what they'll have tomorrow, or do they just wait, hoping that someone else will take the burden off their shoulders? You try not to care. You try not to think about it. But when your neighbors catch you with something extra, a loaf of bread, a few vegetables, you can see it in their eyes. It's not just curiosity. It's a silent plea, a hope that maybe this time, maybe today, you'll offer up the food you've worked so hard to get. And it's hard not to feel the weight of that expectation. But in a world where food is everything, it's not easy to share. It's not easy to give up what you've worked so hard for when you know that tomorrow might be just as bleak, just as uncertain, and so you eat quickly, making sure no one else sees what's left on your plate. You eat with your eyes darting around, checking the window to make sure no one is watching, checking the door to see if anyone might come knocking. It's not that you're selfish. It's just that when survival is on the line, you do what you have to do to keep your family fed. The unspoken rivalry may never end. It's a part of this new life, this new world, where food is the most precious commodity and everyone is fighting for a little bit of hope, a little bit of relief. And yet, deep down, you know that the desperation you see in their eyes is no different from the desperation you feel. You're both fighting for the same thing, trying to keep your heads above water in a world that's slowly sinking. Maybe one day, this silent battle will end. Maybe, in some distant future, things will be different. But for now, you'll keep your eyes on your plate, and they'll keep their eyes on yours. Because in the end, survival isn't just about food. It's about holding on to what little you have left and making sure no one takes it away from you. It's 6 a.m., and you're already out the door, ready to scrape together whatever's left. The world is still half asleep, and the streets are empty, save for the occasional car making its way down the road. The air is cold, biting at your skin, and the silence of the early morning is deafening. You don't have time to waste. There's no room for hesitation, no room to question whether this is worth it. You've got your shoes on, worn and full of holes, and a sense of resolve that you try to convince yourself is still enough to get you through another day. The truth is, you've been doing this for what feels like years, and every day feels like you're stuck in an endless loop trying to find a way out. And every day feels like you're getting further from it. You start by heading to the houses you know best, the ones where you've knocked before, the ones where you've tried to find work and failed. The owners are still there, still holding on to whatever they've got left, and you know they'll tell you the same thing. Sorry, we can't hire you right now. The words sting, but they're not new. They're almost comforting in their predictability. At least you know what to expect. The silence in between the words is worse. The quiet way they look at you, not with sympathy, but with that uncomfortable, pitiful glance that says they wish they could help, but they just can't. You don't blame them. Everyone's struggling. You're just one more face in the crowd, knocking on doors hoping for something that isn't coming. You try to shake it off, but it's impossible not to feel the weight of it. The first door you knock on today is the same as the last one you knocked on yesterday. And the day before that, you go from house to house, moving down the block, doing your best to keep your head up, but the weight of each rejection is heavier than the last. Each step takes more effort, and by the time you've reached the third or fourth house, your feet are dragging, your energy is gone, and you start to wonder if this is all there is, going from door to door, begging for a chance, only to be turned away again and again. But you can't stop. There's no stopping. You've got to keep moving, keep hoping, even though you're starting to doubt if anything will ever change. You wonder if the world is watching you, if anyone sees the struggle in your eyes, the frustration in the way you carry yourself. But then you remember that everyone's in the same boat. They're all fighting their own battles. It's not that people are ignoring you. It's just that everyone is too busy surviving their own misery to notice someone else's. You try to convince yourself that you're not alone, but the loneliness gnaws at you, the isolation creeping in every time you knock and no one answers. By the time you reach the end of the street, you feel like you've already failed. You've done everything you can, and yet there's still nothing to show for it. You pause for a moment, letting the reality sink in. It's like you've been walking this same path forever, a never-ending loop that leads you nowhere. The world is full of doors, full of opportunities, but they're all locked. You're locked out, and the key is nowhere to be found. There's nothing left to do but turn around and go back to the same place you started, hoping the next day will be different, but deep down, knowing it probably won't be. On your way back, you pass by the other workers, those lucky few who still have jobs. You can see it in their faces, in the way they walk, like they've got somewhere to be, like they've got a future that's more than just survival. It's hard not to feel the sting of jealousy, not to wonder what it would be like to walk with that kind of purpose, to know where your next paycheck is coming from. But you don't let it show. You keep your head down, focus on your next move, and remind yourself that you've got to keep going. You can't afford to stop. You can't afford to let the weight of all this despair pull you under. By the time you get home, the sun is just starting to rise, and you feel like you've already run a marathon. You sit down on the edge of the bed, exhausted, your mind and body both drained from the endless cycle of trying and failing. But you can't let yourself rest for too long. There's more to do, more doors to knock on, more chances to miss. The grind is endless. You wonder if it's worth it. But you know you can't stop, because stopping means giving up, and giving up is something you're not ready to do yet. Working the night shift has its perks, like the silence, the kind of silence that wraps around you, soft and quiet, offering a kind of solitude you can't find during the chaos of the day. It's almost peaceful in its stillness. There's something about the night, the way the world seems to slow down, the absence of the usual noise and bustle that makes it easier to breathe, even if only for a few hours. The hum of the machines, the low murmur of the lights, the occasional shuffle of feet, it's all background noise, a steady rhythm that somehow calms you. The stillness allows you to think, to focus, to drift into your own thoughts without the distractions of the outside world. For a while, it feels like you're the only one awake, the only one aware that the world is still turning, still moving, despite everything else. But when you're struggling to make ends meet, that silence becomes deafening. The longer you're in it, the more it amplifies the weight of the reality you're trying to avoid. The quiet no longer feels like a comfort. It becomes a reminder of everything you're not, everything you don't have. It's in the silence that you can hear the doubts creeping in, the questions you try not to ask yourself during the day. Will things ever get better? How long can you keep doing this? The silence of the night, so easy to drown out in the busyness of the day, now presses in on you like a vice. It's suffocating, forcing you to face the truth you've been avoiding. The world isn't working for you. It's working against you. The job you're doing isn't enough. The hours aren't enough. The money isn't enough. As you stand there, moving through the motions of the shift, sorting boxes, stocking shelves, mopping floors, you wonder how many other people are just like you. How many are working the night shift, struggling to make it through the day, hoping for something better, but knowing it's out of reach? How many others are in the same cycle, waking up in the dark, working in the dark, and going home in the dark? You start to feel like a ghost, a shadow in the night. No one really notices you. No one really sees you. You're just another body, another worker filling a slot, making sure everything keeps running, even if it's just barely. The hardest part is the exhaustion. It's a different kind of tired, the kind that seeps into your bones and lingers long after you've clocked out. It's the kind of tired that makes you question everything, your choices, your future, your worth. You drag yourself home at the end of the shift, knowing you'll barely sleep before you have to get up and do it all over again. But it's the only thing you can do. You keep going because there's no other choice. There's no backup plan. There's no safety net. All you've got is the job, the hours, and the hope that it'll be enough. But deep down, you know it won't be. You know that even if you keep going, it's still not enough to escape the crushing weight of everything you're facing. And yet, in the midst of the exhaustion, in the middle of that deafening silence, there's something oddly comforting. It's the certainty that at least you're moving. You might not be getting ahead, but you're not standing still. You're doing something. The night shift, in its own way, is your lifeline. It's not a good lifeline, not a bright one, but it's a lifeline nonetheless. It keeps you afloat, keeps you moving forward, even if it's just an inch at a time. You might not have the answers to the bigger questions, the ones about your future, your purpose, your place in the world, but you know that as long as you keep showing up for the night shift, you're still in the game. For now, that's enough. So you find comfort in the dark, not because it's easy, not because it's what you want, but because it's all you've got. The world outside may be collapsing, your dreams may feel miles away, but the night shift is still here, the work is still here, and somehow in the silence of the night, that's enough to keep you going. For now, when you're out of options, sometimes you just take a walk, out into the fields, out into the dust. It's not that you expect to find something there, some hidden treasure or an answer to all your problems, but sometimes it's the only thing left to do. The house feels too small, too suffocating, and the walls have started to close in on you. So you step outside into the dry, cracked earth that stretches for miles and try to clear your mind. The world is vast, or at least it feels like it should be, but you can barely see past the haze. The sky is thick with the weight of poverty, darkened by dust and smoke from fires that never seem to go out. The air smells of dirt and desperation, mixing with the faint bitter scent of burning wood. It's not the fresh air you wish for. It's heavy, full of everything you can't escape, and yet, it's all you've got. You walk aimlessly, feet dragging through the dirt, your mind spinning with the weight of it all. You think about your family, about the bills that won't get paid, about the endless cycle of failure. You think about the neighbors, struggling just as much as you are, and wonder if they feel it too, the feeling that the world is moving on without you, that you're just a small part of a forgotten landscape. You wonder if anyone else is out there, fighting the same fight, wondering if there's any point to it all. It's easy to feel alone, but when you're out here, in the vast expanse of nothingness, you start to question if anyone else is walking in your shoes. Maybe they are. Maybe everyone is out here in the fields, trying to make sense of a world that feels like it's slipping away from them. Maybe the whole world is holding its breath, waiting for something to change, but nothing does. The wind picks up, stirring the dust around you, and you pull your collar up to shield your face. It's a reminder of how little control you have over anything. The dust, the wind, the world around you, it all seems indifferent, unaffected by your struggles. But you keep walking because it's the only thing you can do. The dirt crunches beneath your feet, and every step feels like you're moving further away from the world you once knew. The dream of something better, of a future that isn't just about survival, feels distant, like a faint memory of a time before the dust settled. It's hard to remember when things were different, when you had hope that things might get better. But as you walk, you realize that the dream doesn't seem as real as it once did. It's more like a shadow now, something you chase but can never quite catch. As the sun sinks lower in the sky, you stop for a moment and look around. There's nothing here, no green fields, no crops, just dust and empty land, stretching for miles. You wonder if this is how it will always be, just you and the dust. You wonder if everyone feels like this, if everyone looks around and sees nothing but desolation. Maybe this is the new reality, the one that no one warned you about, a world that has given up, a place where dreams go to die. And yet, you keep walking, because what else is there to do? You can't stop. You can't just give up. Even if it feels like the rest of the world has moved on, you can't let go. You walk, even when the landscape feels like a reflection of your own fading hope. As the wind dies down, you pause for a moment, trying to catch your breath, trying to collect your thoughts. You start to wonder if this is all you'll ever have, just the dust, the endless struggle, the hope that never quite reaches you. You wonder if the rest of the world is feeling the same way. Are they all out there, trudging through their own version of the dust? Or are they somewhere else, somewhere far away, where the sun shines a little brighter, where the fields are a little greener? You wonder if you'll ever get to see that place, or if you're destined to remain here, stuck in the same endless cycle. But then, just as you're about to turn back, something catches your eye. A patch of green. It's small, barely noticeable, but it's there, growing between the cracks in the dirt. You stop and stare at it, the sight of it filling you with a strange sense of hope. It's a reminder that even in the harshest of conditions, something can grow. Even in the middle of the dust, life finds a way. And maybe, just maybe, that's what you need to hold on to. The idea that even when it feels like you're walking through a wasteland, there's still a chance for something to bloom. It's small, it's fragile, but it's there. And for a moment, that's enough to make you keep going. So you keep walking. You walk through the dust, through the haze of despair, but now you do it with a little more purpose. You walk because you know that somewhere, out there in the vast emptiness, there's still a chance for something to grow. And as long as you keep moving forward, there's hope that one day, the dust will settle and the dream will find its way to you. Hope is a fragile thing. It flickers, almost imperceptible, like a candle struggling against the wind, always on the verge of being snuffed out. Some days it feels like it's barely hanging on, but other days it's the only thing that keeps you moving. And sometimes all you have is a letter that may or may not bring good news. Maybe it's a job offer, that long-awaited response that you've been hoping for, praying for even. Maybe it's an invitation to a community meeting, a chance to make a connection, a glimmer of something that could change everything. But more often than not, it's just a piece of paper that reminds you of what you don't have, the things you've lost, the opportunities you've missed, the promises that have evaporated. You sit at the kitchen table, the letter sitting in front of you like a beacon of hope, one that's either about to light the way or disappoint you all over again. You stare at it for what feels like an eternity, your hands trembling as you run your fingers over the edge of the envelope. It's postmarked, and you know it's real, but that's about all you know for sure. The handwriting on the front is unfamiliar, but it doesn't matter. You can't help but wonder, is this it? Is this the one? You have no idea what's inside, no clue if this will be the breakthrough you've been waiting for, or just another letdown to add to the pile. You tear open the envelope carefully, almost afraid to rip the paper, like somehow destroying the letter would destroy the last piece of hope you have left. You pull out the contents, holding your breath as you unfold it. The paper feels heavier than usual, and as though it's holding more than just words, more than just ink. Maybe it's the weight of all your expectations, all your hopes. Maybe it's the realization that this letter could determine whether you sink further into the abyss or claw your way out. You take a deep breath, bracing yourself, and then you read the words. Most of the time, it's nothing. A rejection letter, or worse, an invitation to wait just a little longer. You're sorry to inform you, but the position has already been filled. Or, we've decided to go in another direction. And in that moment, it feels like the floor falls out beneath you. The hope you were clinging to slips away like sand through your fingers, leaving nothing but the cold, hard reality. And you wonder, how many more of these can you take? How many more letters will you have to open, only to be reminded that nothing is changing, that your situation is only getting worse? But sometimes the letter isn't a rejection. Sometimes it's something more, a glimmer of hope, an invitation, an offer. It doesn't even have to be big. It could be a tiny, insignificant thing, just enough to get you through one more day, just enough to make you believe that things might actually turn around. Maybe it's a job interview, maybe it's a community meeting where you can finally network, find a connection, make something happen. Maybe it's an offer to join a support group, to meet others who understand exactly what you're going through. These small flickers of possibility keep you going, even when the world around you feels like it's collapsing. And yet, the weight of disappointment still hangs heavy. Even when the letter brings good news, there's always that nagging fear that it won't be enough, that the next letter, the next opportunity, will be just another reminder that nothing is certain, that you can't count on anything, no matter how hard you try. The fear of being stuck in this endless cycle, the hope that never fully materializes, the dreams that never quite come true, creeps in, and it's hard to push it aside. But you do. You keep going. You hold on to that last flicker of hope, even when it feels like it's about to die out. Because even though hope is fragile, even though it's fleeting and unpredictable, it's also what makes life worth living. Without it, there's nothing. Without hope, you're stuck, frozen in place, unable to move forward, so you keep holding on. You keep opening letters, hoping, wishing that this time it will be different. And maybe, just maybe, this time the letter will bring you the answer you've been waiting for. Because the alternative, living without hope, is too dark, too unbearable to consider. And so, you wait for the next letter, and the next, and the next, holding on to the belief that eventually one of them will carry the promise of something better, even when you know deep down that you might have to wait a little longer, even when you know that hope is the most fragile thing you've got left. Sometimes, it's the smallest things that break you. A call to a relative, asking for help, a plea for mercy. You never thought you'd have to ask, but here you are, on the edge of losing everything. The weight of it is almost unbearable. It's the kind of feeling that sneaks up on you, slowly at first, a quiet pressure on your chest that builds into something you can't ignore. You've spent months, years, trying to hold it all together, trying to find a way through, but now you're standing at the edge of a cliff with no idea how to pull yourself back. Your pride, your dignity, all the things you told yourself you could keep intact have been stripped away by the harsh reality of the situation. You're exhausted, defeated, and the only option left is to reach out, to ask for help, to show the world that you can no longer do this on your own. You dial the number with shaky fingers, the screen lighting up in your hand like a small beacon of hope. You know the person on the other end of the line is the last person who might be able to help, but it's all you have left. You don't know what you're expecting. Maybe some kind words, maybe an offer to help, maybe even just a bit of advice. But the phone rings, and with each ring, your heart races faster, your mind filling with 1,000 different thoughts. What if they don't answer? What if they don't have the resources to help? What if they say no? You've always prided yourself on being self-sufficient, on being able to handle whatever life throws at you. Asking for help feels like admitting failure, but you know there's no other choice. The line picks up, and for a moment there's silence, just the faint buzz of the line, the static that fills the space between you and the person you're desperately trying to reach. Your breath catches in your throat, and you open your mouth to speak, but the words don't come out. You can feel the lump in your throat, the fear and the shame threatening to choke you. You swallow hard and try again, forcing the words out in a quiet, strained voice. I need help. I don't know what else to do. The silence on the other end feels like an eternity. As you wait, hoping, praying for something, anything. But all you hear is the quiet hum of the line, as if the other person is processing what you just said, trying to figure out how to respond. And then finally, a voice comes through. It's not what you expected. It's not the kind of response you were hoping for. They're sorry, but they don't have the means to help you right now. They wish they could, but things are tight on their end too. You hear the disappointment in their voice, the helplessness, and in that moment, it feels like everything you've built up inside, all the frustration, the fear, the shame, comes crashing down on you. The line goes quiet again, and you're left there, holding the phone, staring at the screen, unable to speak. You never thought it would come to this, that you'd have to reach out and hear the word no in response. You thought someone, anyone, would come through for you. But the truth is, no one can help you. No one has the answers. You've reached the end of your rope, and now you're left alone, staring at the small, silent screen in your hand, the weight of the rejection settling deep in your chest. You hang up the phone, the echo of the conversation lingering in your ears. The feeling of failure, of helplessness, settles over you like a heavy blanket. You wonder what's left to do. You've asked for help, and it hasn't come. There's nowhere else to turn, no more hands to reach for. You've exhausted all your options. The dreams you once had now feel like distant memories, unreachable, slipping further out of grasp with every passing day. And as you sit there in the quiet of your room, you wonder if this is it, if this is the moment where everything truly falls apart. But even as the despair settles in, there's a small flicker of defiance in the back of your mind. The fight isn't over yet. You may not have found the lifeline you were hoping for, but you're still here. You're still breathing. And maybe, just maybe, there's still a chance for something to change. It's not much, but it's something. So you take a deep breath and force yourself to stand up. The world may feel like it's slipping away, but you're not done yet. Not today. Not while there's still breath in your lungs. You'll keep going, even if it means facing another day of uncertainty. You've got nothing left to lose, but somehow that still feels like a little bit of hope. There's a glimmer of hope, but it's hard to tell if it's real or just your imagination running wild. The kind of hope that you've clung to for months, maybe even years, just waiting for something to change. Maybe it's the faint whisper of an improvement in the economy, a job offer that finally comes through, or a new opportunity that promises to take you out of this endless struggle. But as soon as you begin to reach for it, you feel the weight of doubt drag you back. It's hard to know if the hope you're holding on to is genuine, or if it's just a mirage, something your mind has conjured to keep you moving forward when everything else is telling you to stop. You've been told so many times that the economy will turn around, that things will get better, that brighter days are ahead. But you're starting to wonder if those promises are just empty words, designed to keep you pushing, keep you waiting. How many times have you heard it before? How many times have they said the market would bounce back, the jobs would return, that it was just a phase? Yet here you are, still waiting, still stuck in the same loop, watching the world change around you without you ever moving forward. You wonder if everyone else feels the same way. Maybe they're all just pretending, waiting for a miracle to fall into their laps, but none of them are saying it out loud. So you keep your head down, keep walking the same road, hoping that one day you'll see the light at the end of the tunnel. But what if that light isn't real? What if it's just a figment of your imagination, a trick your mind plays on you to get you through another day? What if you've been chasing something that doesn't exist, a hope that will never materialize? You can't help but wonder. You've been running towards that light for so long now, yet every time you think you're getting close, it seems to move further away. The world doesn't feel like it's getting better. It feels like it's slipping further into uncertainty. The small victories are few and far between, and even those don't seem to hold much weight when compared to the endless setbacks you've faced. The bills pile up. The hunger gnaws at you. The worry about tomorrow never seems to stop. And you're left wondering, will it ever get better? You won't know until you get there. And by then, you might just have learned to live with the uncertainty. Maybe you've already accepted that life won't give you the answers you've been waiting for. Maybe the light at the end of the tunnel isn't some grand resolution, but just the strength to keep going, even when you don't know where you're headed. Maybe it's not about finding the end of the tunnel at all. It's about surviving the journey, one uncertain step at a time. But even if the light is a mirage, there's something comforting in the hope that it might be real, even if it's just the idea of something better, something more than this. It's enough to keep you moving, because, at least for now, it's the only thing that gives you purpose. It's the thread that ties you to the future, no matter how distant it seems. And maybe, just maybe, it's worth it to keep following that light, even if you don't know where it leads. Maybe it's the belief that better days are ahead that makes today a little easier to face. You tell yourself that eventually, something will change. The uncertainty will pass. The light will either turn out to be real, or you'll learn to live without it. But for now, you hold on to that flicker of hope, no matter how small it may be. It's all you've got left. And sometimes, that's enough to keep you going, to keep moving through the dark. Because even if you never find the end of the tunnel, the fact that you're still walking forward means you're alive, still fighting, still reaching for something better, even if you're not sure what it is. As you sit in the silence of the night, the weight of it all begins to sink in. You've fought, you've struggled, and you've kept pushing through each day, even when the world around you seemed to close in. The hope that you've held on to, no matter how fragile, is still there, flickering in the distance, like a light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not. But right now, it doesn't matter. Because as long as you can keep moving, keep putting one foot in front of the other, that little bit of hope is enough to keep you going. Tomorrow might bring more of the same, more uncertainty, more disappointment. But it might also bring something else, a breakthrough, a connection, a change you never saw coming. The truth is, you can't know what the future holds, but that doesn't mean you give up on it. You've survived today, and that's worth something. And even if the road ahead seems impossible, there's one thing you know for sure: you'll keep walking it. Because that flicker of hope, however small, is your reason to keep going. So tonight, as you lay down to rest, let go of the weight of the world for just a moment. Remember that you're not alone in this. Others are walking the same road, feeling the same doubts, and facing the same struggles. But we're all here, trying, surviving, hoping. And in the end, that's what matters. Keep holding on, keep fighting, and know that tomorrow is another chance to take that next step. Good night, and remember, you're not done yet. Okay, good night.